Meeting to order. Welcome to the LEAC committee. It is 5:36 and meeting is now in session.
Has everyone had a chance to look over the agenda?
And ladies and gentlemen, our HOA ladies go through a lot of trouble to send this agenda out prior to the meeting. Please, if you would, start taking the time to look it over prior, just so we can hit the floor running our meeting.
Whoever did this was awesome.
So it's the same agenda you'll find in the email. So I was. Can everybody hear me okay? But now. Anyway, welcome to the meeting. I wanted to start going over at the beginning of each meeting some of the Roberts rules. We're going to start focusing on the professional mannerism of committees. As far as getting the floor to talk until you get the recognized by the chair or one of the leadership to have the floor to speak, that please do not, because we want to give everyone a chance. So until you're recognized by the floor, and I'm sure everyone has watched the government meetings going on, they've seen that the floor recognizes this person. They have the floor at that point. Everyone else should listen. I want to try and slowly educate people on the proper etiquette as far as board members go and how the committee runs, because a lot of people have expressed a desire to get involved with other committees. Some of our other committees have state representatives, they have organization representatives, CEOs. We're a lot more lenient in this committee than they will be. We need to function in that world, in that hemisphere. So slowly we're trying to bring everybody up to speed. So if there's something you don't understand, please feel free to ask and we'll make sure that, plus it helps everybody grow. Okay? So let's go on to the consent agenda and we'll start off with our April 10th meeting summary.
Everyone had a chance to look that over? Any questions, corrections? Can I get a motion to approve? Okay. Thank you, Jennifer.
Second.
Thank you. Everyone to approve? Say aye. Any nays? Anyone abstaining? Motion approved. Thank you.
We also have an application. We also have an application to approve, but it's not a new application, it's a renewed pilot. And he's been in our committee for a while now, but we need to take a vote tonight on his approval. Since he's already a existing member, there's a renewal. I hope nobody sees any problem with that, with approving it.
Motion to approve.
Anyway, I'm entering a motion to approve his application. All in favor? Okay, a little audio would be good, but that's fine. Hands work.
Chair, who motioned and who seconded, please?
I motioned.
Who second?
I will second it.
Thank you.
Sorry, people, I'm glad I voted.
Then we took a vote to approve, Megan.
Yes, for that part, thank you.
Any extensions? Anybody want to vote just, I'm neither voting yay, I'm neither voting nay, just for the record? Did you, I'm sorry, so sorry, Kat, you asked that and I didn't hear it. I apologize.
We are trainable.
You do a great job. I spit my butt down.
You know, if I can't do something, I'm gonna look straight at you, right?
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
The first before that is the COC notice.
Yep.
So quick, sorry. I thought you typically that takes a while. So I'm Sherry Holtzwalker. I've met all of you before. I'm interim CEO for Homeless Leadership Alliance, Pinellas. It was back in July when I came to my first meeting with the previous role. And I want to say that, and I've been to a couple more meetings since, and I want to say I wish all committees could be as productive as this one within the COC. Y'all are great. The work that has gone forward in front of the board, the COC board, the work that the representation you have on the executive committee and on the COC board and in all the other committees, the more the merrier, getting involved in all that work too. But I can say that the productivity, the commitment and dedication to show up, to have quorum, to produce like the LEAC pamphlet, the law enforcement pamphlet, huge work. And it really is moving us forward. And so I think a lot of great advocates are coming together and that's just awesome to see. So I thank you for letting me have a few minutes of your time here. I have a handout. So instead of my giving a huge presentation, I'll pass, thank you so much. I can do it. I would travel around in this cane. So are you all okay with my sitting here to?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Happy to hear. I just wanted to say that nothing motivates a person until it happens.
Right,
That's why.
that's right. And a lot of, I agree. And in most, even people who are working in like social services, most people who come there, most, not all, have had some connection. Whether it's been them or a family member who's experienced some issue, and that's where we're ignited as well. And so, yeah, I do come as a representative of the HLA. I do have previous experience being houseless as a young person, especially as a teenager out of foster care. And but that was many years ago. So my experience would be completely different. Just like I think everyone's experience is different. Yeah. Mine was in a different state even, so, yeah.
because of all of that, I tend to notice people while I'm out and eating, and I've helped some people because of it, because I know what it feels like. It's
Yeah,
exactly what I wrote on my application. I know what it feels like to be homeless.
Exactly, and so because of that, that's why this committee is so important that it exists. And so I wanted to, if you see our handout in front of you, there's been a lot of buzz around $6.5 million that was awarded to the COC. Well, it's not really to the COC. Our COC puts in an application to HUD, which is the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Most years, typically they have a competition every year. And so we did that in 2024. It was submitted back in December. And there's not one happening this year. It's going to last for 2 years. But when we submit that application, HLA is the one that oversees making sure that all the applications go out, and the COC board and the committees go through and come up with recommendations to HUD on these are the projects that we are moving forward. And so the funds that we received, they're not for any sort of like direct assistance or individual personal grants. All of the awardees, they are nonprofit members, service providers within our COC. And those, so this year, with that $6.5 million, even though it was more than we received last year and the year before, it did not create any new projects. It was intended to maintain the existing programs that are going on, like at Foley and with CASA for domestic violence survivors, for rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing. And then the remaining funds for the HLA did receive funding as well for coordinated entry and for our homeless management information system. So HMIS, if you've heard of that. I know April, when she was here before, we were talking about it as well, April Lott. Those are required by HUD for us to have as a COC. It's amazing how in some cases where a COC doesn't submit the application, HUD will not pay. So there have been, if you're a minute late, you get nothing. If you do it wrong, you get nothing. And that's why it's really important to have the staff to carry it through. But it's all through a board approval process through the COC. And then ultimately, when HUD decides, then they contract directly with those service providers, the BOLIs, the CASAs, the service providers. They don't go through us anymore at that point. And so I just wanted to just talk about that really quickly. And then now open it up to any questions you may have based on any information that's on the handout or just questions about that funding in general. And then I'll try to answer it. It's Gary.
This is how it works. Tyler?
I was just gonna make a comment that, when you apply for a job, the post office is the same way. You make one mistake on your day, it's how government works.
Gary White.
I was just curious what we would have to go, like it says, yeah, we're overseeing the application process. Are we looking at any of the numbers or how do we decide who's getting who's not?
That's a great question. So, and this is where some opportunities are open to anyone who is in this committee and or general membership as well. So we have, the process is the HLA, we put out a request for applications and we're following all of HUD's, it's a like 150-page document plus another 150-page document. Yeah, it's a lot going through it and then making sure that we're crossing all of our T's, dotting our I's. And so the process starts with, we create the request for applications. The applications are received, and then we have a review and rank committee that is with the COC board. There is at least one seat on that committee that is intended for someone on from this committee to participate in. And so at least one person with lived experience is represented on that review and rank. They score. That committee gets trained by HLA staff on, this is the process. It's pretty intense. It's a lot. If you receive a lot of applications, they can be kind of thick. We try to keep them as simple as possible because nobody has time to go through all of that. But it's so reviewing those, going through and scoring each application, and then that review and rank committee then goes in front of a public forum. In person is preferable, and they sit there with an audience behind, full of the service providers who have applied, right? And you have people behind you like, not very happy or happy, it depends, you know, where they're landing on the scores. And so then, they deliberate, and so we call it deliberations, basically they're discussing, and there's a huge chart in front that shows where you rank. And then, from there, they make their recommendation, the COC board approves it, and then we just send that recommendation up to HUD. It doesn't guarantee that any of those projects will get funded.
Yeah,
You're white.
thanks, sir. I understand, that what I was kind of wondering is what would we be using to educate ourselves on what is good and bad as far as whoever the representative is for this committee won't have any information, or where would they access information in order to make a good decision on who gets it, who don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that would be during the training for the review and rate committee, really. The review and rate committee, we would be going over, instead of people having to read all of that documentation, we would explain that these are the projects that HUD is looking at right now and will fund. So that's what we're gonna focus on. And then the actual, so the scores, those are determined, that whole,
I mean, somebody's looking at it to see who's more productive than another.
absolutely, in that score,
That's very
in the scoring sheet, it has the performance, you know, how many people are being served, how many people are actually being housed, and, you know, how long are people being housed? How many people are being exited and then they come back, and, you know, and then they've been homeless again.
Right.
So, yeah, are you,
Yeah,
what's your performance like?
successfully out of the situation would be all.
It's
To
pretty
be
dated.
successfully out of being homeless and not go back to it because they're able to sustain that.
Exactly. We also look at another big one that, of course, is important to HUD, and it is important because in order to sustain housing, making sure that people are being connected to their benefits, like Social Security, making sure that they are getting workforce development help and being connected to employment. Whatever method, whether it's through work or through benefits, those services, those resources are gonna make it to where someone can sustain that housing.
That's important. I've seen, since I've been out here and been to Pinellas several places, I've seen people get housed very quickly, but not given the tools they need to sustain the bills and maintain, so they don't end up back, you know. That's a lot, I know, for everybody.
It's true, and so when you see that, we have the performance, we know the numbers, right? And so we can say 20% of people are actually being housed long-term,
Right.
or only 10% are actually increasing income, and even if you're getting Social Security, even if you're on a fixed income,
Yeah.
you're still getting an increase every year.
Yeah.
So if there's no increase, then either people are not putting information into the system, which we need,
Yeah,
or they're not doing their job by helping people make sure that they're accessing their benefits.
for every increase you get, the cost of living's going up.
And, oh,
So you
yeah, I
can't
know,
tell,
I'm,
you know.
you know, yeah,
Thank you.
it's true.
If I may be so forward, you say, Data and Performance Committee also keeps track of these providers of accurately entering the information into their system. Every dot has to be, I has to have a dot, every T has to be crossed. Everything is, we even grade them on that. And how I know this is I'm on the Performance and Data Committee. And it's overwhelming sometimes, the amount of data that you have to digest to exist in the committee, but all that's important and required by HUD. All right, so. Who is that? Norman. Norman, you have the floor.
I noticed it said, it's just, maintain projects and it's just, that's not the best news. As you know, the big problem is permanent home housing, which we need. And we need to establish something in this county, which, helps people in any situation, not just specialized groups. That's been our problem, as you know. How long in advance, I guess a grant writer submits this to HUD, how long in advance And these are granted once every year?
Typically once a year. It has been that case before. This year it changed to once every 2 years.
Oh, okay, I see. How long in advance does that have to be submitted? You know, before they close the bids or whatever, the grants and evaluate?
So when we submit, it was typically 4 to 6 months it has to be within 6 months. Typically, it's within 4 months that we hear back. But those projects, so you normally made a lot of good points. So I don't even know if I can capture all of it right here, but so we would know within a few months afterwards typically. It can go up to 6 months, but usually most of the projects aren't going to even receive these funds until next year.
Oh.
Yeah, but they're covered from the last cycle to go through the year. Now, the other thing that you mentioned though, about, not having new projects come on, is that the reason for that is because of the way that the competition's set up, it makes it difficult to bring in new projects because then you'd be if you didn't have like a permanent supportive housing unit, an entire complex that's funded by these funds. If it didn't receive funding, then all the people that are there would end up with nothing on the street. So one thing is hopefully moving forward, we can find other ways to fund those projects. I mean, we're not funding it, right? But working with the provider to actually look at other ways to fund so that new projects can come in. That's one thing. Another thing is to look more at, there are other funding sources like the state. The state has funds. And so if they would support permanent supportive housing and not rely on HUD funding. So if the state was to give money for permanent supportive housing or the local governments to keep it going, that would open up more for other groups, just for this type of funding. There are many other different types of funding that come through. So they cover other types for other purposes and other populations.
And yeah, the new projects is far, there's no particular timetable when they'll consider that or grant it, is that the case?
It would have to be the next
Because
time.
this year, it was
Yeah.
just this year, what they did maintain.
Well, because the way that the review and rank committee and the COC board approved, they approved all the renewal projects. So those are projects that already existed, and then the projects that were newer were towards the bottom. For the reason being, like I said earlier, if HUD doesn't fund everything, bonus projects, they're called bonus projects, but they're new projects. They're new bonus. If HUD doesn't fund everything that you have, they go by the rank that you give. If they shut down at a certain point, they cut off, then you may have an entire unit that is just completely taken out. And so that, to be safe, that was the decision of the COC board this year. Thank you.
And just as a reminder, when you're asking questions, please try to keep it within a 2-minute time frame. That way we don't use up too much committee time and other people get a chance to speak too. And it worked out well because it gives her more of a chance to go into depth for certain from the. Anyone else? Agenda we're talking about. Did anyone get a chance to look over the LEAC charter? Possible revisions. We're talking about one revision where the LEAC leadership term will be extended to 2 years and staggered. That way you're not electing 2 chairs at the same time. You have one elected and then a year later you'll have another one for ensure continuity. So, that was one revision that we have coming. If you look on page 15, LEAC officers, terms and elections. The co-chairs and secretaries will serve 2-year terms beginning January 1st and ending December 31st. The co-chairs will be staggered so that 1 year and one renewing co-chair elected every other year. And that to ensure continuity. That way we're not bringing new people in at the same time at the same election. In the event of having a new co-chair rather than experiment one renewing. Did anyone even have a chance to look over to suggest any possible revisions they would suggest? With our charter? The charter itself, there should be a copy of it in your papers. That would be, bear with me. Should be right after Mr. Huntington's application. It should be, that next page should be the charter, LEAC charter. LEAC Advisory Committee Governance Charter. I mentioned something at the last meeting. I get a chance. I don't expect you to try and speed read it now, but I'd like you to be able to go over it, see any possible revisions. Please keep in mind with these revisions, there's always going to be an after effect. So if we change one thing, what could that, affect down the road? But personally, I think the idea of changing the term 2 years would provide good continuity with leadership. And my personal opinion is I'm in support of it. So I definitely would want you guys to chime in on it. So okay. Silas?
I think it's actually a good idea, and the reason behind that is because the person who comes in that's new may not know everything, they're a little green, so you have somebody who's already doing stuff, they can actually mentor the new person or so you're right, so it actually,
Exactly.
yes.
Solid continuity, transition of leadership.
Oh, one more thing. When in the individuals, isn't that what hopefully we're supposed to help people? This is what they're doing for me.
If you have not done so, then between now and our next meeting, please go over the charter and make notes so that way you're prepared when you come to the meeting to suggest any charter changes. And for the meantime, as far as suggesting any charter changes, I am going to make a motion to table it, which basically means we're going to set it aside till our next meeting, because I do not feel that we're prepared for such a discussion right now, because none of us really had a chance to review it and go over it. Does everyone agree?
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so we're gonna table that discussion. Okay. All right, then I'll make a motion to table it. All in favor?
That vote happens after the motion. So. I'd like to can we make a motion to table this until next month's meeting?
Yes.
I just need 2 people.
Yeah.
Right here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Anyone abstaining? Motion approved. Thank you.
Want to get us started with Hurricane Gary?
Mhm.
Hurricane. You want to get us started now?
No, you can work.
Make me giggle. All right. Steal your-
Whatever you
Okay,
need.
thank you.
Anything about the hurricane?
I'm stealing things. Just ignore me while I do that. Okay, so now we're gonna talk. That one is kind of quiet. Now we're gonna talk about hurricanes and hurricane preparation again. So during the last meeting, everybody in here was asked to review the flyer that we are putting out there, the methods of communication that we are using to ensure that people on the street know that a hurricane is coming and know how to access vital, life-saving resources. Now, this is, I'm gonna take a second to explain why this is such an important conversation, because during our last storm, or during our last couple of storms, it really came to light that there are some gaps in the communication. So for instance, our partners at Pinellas County, who, credit to them, they do a great job opening those hurricane shelters, making sure that people can get to those hurricane shelters and all of that. But you have to have access to the internet to know where those hurricane shelters are. And if not, where do you go? You go to places that you know have been open as hurricane shelters in the past. Maybe you go stay with a friend. Maybe you, unfortunately, like what happened last time with some of our members, try to write it out somewhere like a storage unit or a tent.
Or a car.
Or a car. And
Default.
that is 100% not what I want anybody doing during a hurricane. Whether you are housed or not, I don't want anybody riding out a storm in a tent, in a car, in a storage unit. We should all be in places where we are safe, where we have access to important resources. And so this is one of the ways that we are trying to fill that gap, to make sure that people can access that resource if you don't have access to the internet or something like that. So what happens with all of this communication? Okay, quick overview. The COC, all of the providers and everything, we meet with Pinellas County Emergency Management. We get the skinny on what's going down with the hurricanes as best as they can give it to us. And we do our best to take all of that information and put it together into something usable for providers and members of the community. We have to wait until Pinellas County posts their list of open hurricane shelters before we can share these resources. And it is absolutely critical that we wait until that list is posted. Unfortunately, that means that we might be posting this information the day before the storm.
Right.
But what happens is if we send out a list, if we print a list and I take it to 7-Eleven and it's out there and there's 100 copies at that 7-Eleven and it has, let's say, John Hopkins on it, but John Hopkins has a leak and actually couldn't open, there might be 100 people that show up at John Hopkins and they can't shelter there. So that is why it takes so long for this information to really get out there into the community. But once we have that information, we pop it into this communication, we send it out to providers, we share it with our street outreach providers, so that folks like Officer Copeland here in Pinellas Park can have this flyer on hand to give to people out there in the community. We are sharing this now with libraries, with resource centers, with meal sites, with as many places and people as we can to ensure that our unsheltered friends will see it, okay? So that's what we are trying to do. We also, of course, post it on the website, on social media, places like that. Our partners are sharing it, things like that. But I know that we can improve this process. I know that we have put together something that is more useful than nothing, but I also know that some folks in here probably have some ideas for how we can improve this process and how we can make sure that the best information is getting into the hands of the folks that need it in the fastest, most efficient ways possible. So that's really what we're going for here. We have given a little, we've given out a sample flyer, as you can see. This is just what the flyer looks like. It's page 19 in your packet. Edits can be made to this template. If y'all don't think that this is a good style, let us know. Because I don't know what I don't know. So please go ahead and share your thoughts, share your ideas. And if you have ideas after this, continue to share them with us, because we want to make sure that we're putting something usable, helpful out there into the community, and I'd appreciate your help with it. Yes, sir.
I was just gonna say that, especially if you're not housed or anything, one of the things that you probably should do is make a point of signing up. You're right, it also requires coming in the library or the internet or whatever, but I have the fire department actually call me periodically to make sure that I'm okay. Because the last time I had to go to a special needs shelter, because I'm electric dependent, I have a sleep apnea machine, I have a service dog, I have things I need to go to a specific place for. If there's a hurricane, and I did the last time because of Milton, I didn't want that tree to come. Yeah, it hit my van roof at 100 miles an hour and it had, so I left and I. But ever since then, I signed up for this on the county website. I signed up for all of that stuff. And they continuously, every so often, every few months or whatever, are you okay? Are you ready? You know where you're supposed to go? You know, is there anything we need? Do we need to come over there with a fire truck and take you to the shelter? They have to know who you are first. You have to sign up for that stuff. And once you sign up for that, they're not gonna leave.
Yeah.
And especially when a storm is coming and stuff, they'll get a hold of you. Hey, are you okay?
Yeah. And that is really, really, really important information. The special needs registry, I grabbed this because I thought it was listed on this one. It's not actually listed on this one. I think it might be on that piece of paper though. And if it isn't, we'll make sure that we send it out via email, because that is a super, super helpful thing. And I want everybody on here. That's one of those instances where everybody can be an advocate. If you know anybody who has particular medical needs, make sure that they register the special needs registry. Because if you are electric dependent, because you have special medical equipment or something like that, that is how you make sure that you are in a shelter where you have access to the resources that you need. So tell everybody you know about the special needs registry.
Okay, so my question is, all the libraries are on board, correct? When a notice like this comes out, all the libraries know, right?
So I've recently connected with the Pinellas County Library Cooperative. So last year, it was not all of the libraries. This year, we'll be sending it out through the cooperative.
Okay, so if the library has this information, and let's say, like you said, people aren't tech savvy or they need to register for special needs. I know this library will make sure if there's a storm coming, they will literally go around to people and specifically ask them, are you going to a shelter? Do you have transportation? Have you registered for, this library will do that.
They're pretty awesome.
Is everyone else doing that?
So that's a great question. And it's actually, I met with the library cooperative last month. And one of the things that we talked about was storm preparedness and some hot weather preparedness as well.
Right.
And one of the things that we talked about was really trying to make sure that we are ensuring people are aware of resources. So I can't guarantee that they're going around to everybody, but I can tell you that we meet with Pinellas County pretty regularly, and I feel like that's a suggestion we can pass along.
I'm thinking so.
I think so. I see Sherry writing.
Thank you, Larry.
I'll come back. We had a question over here first, so give me a second, gentlemen. Sorry, I couldn't remember who had their hand up.
How about radio stations? Can they help you get the word out to the homeless?
That's a great question. And I do believe the radio stations are already doing that. I would love to say they're doing it because of me. I can't take credit for that though. But I know that I've been listening to the radio during storms, and they have been sharing the information about shelters, about Uber giving free rides and things like that as well. Absolutely, because that's a super important resource. Yep, that's very, very, very good point.
I was just gonna add a quick suggestion that, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think, people who work at the library might have a union, and so reaching out to that union might be another way of getting the workers to be more active in reaching out to people.
Love that idea. I'm gonna find out what the library union is.
I do know, oops. Thanks.
Versus you already so it's hard.
I just wanted to draw your attention to a site that I use when the cold shelters are up. HTTP :// Pinellas they update you on all the cold shelters. But I was wondering if there's any effort to contact the people at this site to see if they'll give us hurricane shelter information.
That is a great question, and I can tell you yes, because I'm actually the person who manages that website.
Sure.
I am, so I can tell you absolutely, and thank you very much for pointing everybody to it. I think it's an important resource. All right, so
It came to my head after I gave Mike. The thing with the special needs, it actually became super important during the last storm because the power went out at Oak Grove Middle School while I was there. And the reason that was designated a special needs shelter is because it has a generator system active. So we never lost power ever. There was a bunch of people there with oxygen machines and stuff. And it's, if you balance issues like that, it's really important to.
yeah, it really is absolutely critical.
So what is the actual like special needs registry? Is there like a website for people?
There is, if you go to alertpinellas.org, Megan, can you type that in for me and make sure that I have it right? You should be able to sign up for it there. We can also make sure that next week, in a follow-up email, we send out that link to everybody just in case you don't catch it right now.
And you said alert.
Alertpinellas.org, I believe is right. Megan's double checking me. It's not right. It's not right. Don't write that down. She's
Okay.
shaking her head.
Okay. And then
See, that's why I
I have
asked.
one more thing. It kind of slipped my mind as I was watching. When the flyers get printed out, like what is the best way for anybody to get the flyers that want to like pass them out?
So in that moment, because it is such a quick turnaround, we are only able to really provide them to people who can print them directly. So when we send them to the street outreach providers, they're responsible for printing them directly. We do have a few folks, like I, for instance, during the last storm, ran around to a few corner stores and dropped some off. Some of our team members ran around and dropped some off around town as well as best we could. But one of the things that's really helpful, honestly, is when we have additional folks who are able to print some flyers and take them to the local corner stores or somewhere else nearby where people might be congregating. So even if you aren't able to print these out, if you have a friend who has a printer and a good heart, asking them if they can, print these and distribute them, take them down to their local grocery store, corner store, something like that would definitely be helpful as well. Great question. Mary?
Last week, Tuesday, Wednesday that I know of, the Dream Center had lots of volunteers and the employees off of 40th Street and 56th Avenue, walking up and down the streets, cleaning the streets and handing out flyers that they were gonna have information at the Asian Center for last Saturday. I wasn't able to go because I was helping somebody, but they had a free lunch and they had information about hurricane this, hurricane that, what to do. And that was at the Asian Center in Leland. And almost even the head guy from the Dream Center was out on 54th Avenue. They had volunteers cleaning up the streets and they were handing out flyers, showing some people had a flyer in front of them to take with them about go to the Asian Center on Saturday for a free lunch and tons of information about hurricane knowledge and hurricane preparedness.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Those hurricane prep events are really important, and they're important for everybody in the community, whether you're sheltered or not. They're incredibly helpful. So thank you for bringing that up.
One thing about this template, there needs to be additional section here, because I knew they were additional shelters than what's listed here on the basic. And they came out 2 days before the hurricane.
So the only shelters that we list here are the ones that are open for Pinellas County. And we will only list shelters that are open for Pinellas County. So if other people have, for instance, their regular homeless emergency shelter, for instance, if Safe Harbor is open and they're not evacuating, that's wonderful, but we are not putting them on this list because this is only for hurricane shelters. Does that make sense?
One other thing, I noticed on how, getting the word out, and so most people, even homeless people, have cell phones. That's a good way, and they give alerts. I noticed.
Yeah, Alert Pinellas is very
That's
helpful.
an excellent way to get people, to notify all people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Cell phones are really important. And that alert, Pinellas alert, is really important. If you have a cell phone and you haven't signed up for Alert Pinellas, make sure that you do. Anytime that there's an emergency preparedness event going on, anytime that there is a storm coming up, I'm getting text messages straight to my phone. So make sure that you register for that if you have access to a phone. Thank you.
I know last year, there were many shelters that opened up, and where I live in, particularly in Clearwater, they came through the police, evacuate. So a lot of people did stay. We left, but I'm gonna say, some of the shelters that are open, like he was saying, ended up with no power. I know some of the hospitals, like the VA, several, Largo Medical, a lot of those hospitals, I wonder where they put all those people, because when they close the hospital down, where did they go? And that's a very good question, because you don't ever hear any more about it. So, word of mouth and being like, the more we can connect, I agree, the better off we'll all be. Because I do know several people in our park who is on oxygen, he's on oxygen too. One lady went to one of the schools and she didn't really like it, but she dealt with it, and, but what happens when they close those places? So that's what I'm saying.
That's a great question and a super interesting thing. So our friends at the county manage the hurricane shelters. We do not manage the hurricane shelters at the HLA or the BOC. We do help the county tell everybody about the hurricane shelters, but we do not manage those. The county does a pretty awesome job of managing them when they are open though. And the way that they evacuate places, honestly, it's impressive. It is like military strategy, and it is quite impressive because they aren't just doing it, on the fly with things like that. They're also doing it systematically. Right. So for instance, if there are assisted living facilities or there are homeless shelters that are in evacuation zones, the county is coordinating directly with those locations to make sure that they have specific places to go to. And a lot of the times, they're actually evacuated before everywhere else. So before that big evacuation alert comes out, those places are evacuated to special locations that are not actually published. They might be published later if there's still room for them, but they have some really cool systems that they set up. When it comes time to, for instance, evacuate a shelter that lost power, that is where I'm most impressed with how they do it, because I gotta be honest, just thinking about having to coordinate that gives me chills. But they really manage to find space. They find buses and they load people in and take them to a safer location. I wish that I could give you more information about how they do that. I feel like I could maybe take over the world if I knew how. But it is such a cool program and such an awesome thing, and it is a really interesting question. How do they manage that? How do they coordinate that? Impressively is the answer.
Yeah.
Right, here and then here. You got it?
Okay, Norman, addressing the phone issue. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to contradict that. Most of the homeless do not have working cell phones, especially since ACP program folded.
Yeah.
All right, I think everyone here can pretty well agree, they don't have working cell phones. Send something out on a mass texting don't work, but, all right, homeless do listen and respect other homeless. They're not, they'll blow at the Winn-Dixie parking lot, they're not gonna listen to them. You have friends that are homeless, they're gonna listen to you. That's where the advocacy of us are gonna come into play. We're also going to help get the word out. But as far as, and not to mention, a lot of the homeless, they are not tech savvy. You know, if we totally concentrate, I wanted to get this out before the conversation ran away. Is that they're not tech savvy. We can't totally base it on somebody that pays for, you know, they have their phone. They're paid for a whole year, they're used to texting, you can't compare that to somebody who's homeless that doesn't have that option. You know, they've gone through Gen Mobile or Access Border or whoever. And they don't, or they started, I don't know why, but some of the churches have bought these track phones for people. With a month or two of service, once the service is gone, phone's in the garbage. They're back without a phone again. If we rely on something like that, we're not gonna get the word out in time. You know, there isn't enough of the homeless out there with a phone. You know, sorry, I don't mean to contradict this, but my experience that I found, and I deal with a lot of homeless every week, they don't have phones. I got people that ask me just to use the phone because they want to call here all the time that are homeless. And I literally use my phone to call. But they don't have a phone. But we really can't rely on somebody that if there's nobody there, if the numbers are no good and we're not reaching the people, and we're relying on a system that's gonna need phones to work. You know, we're giving them tools for failure. We'll never get the word out. You know, I mean, you have a phone, because you pay a phone bill and you have a provider and take care, that's why. But the homeless is relying on the Obama phone system. If they can find one, or if they have one where the phone is stolen, or what have you. Oh, I think we need something a little better.
And also, I don't know if people are aware of this, the decision makers and the powers that be and the people that operate the shelters, and I understand they do other things. But the last time I was at a hurricane shelter, I got stranded in Clearwater because they threw us out before the buses were running.
Yeah.
Now, if you're homeless, chances are 99% you're getting to that shelter by bus. So when they put you out and the buses aren't running, you're literally stranded someplace you're not familiar with. You don't know where to go sleep. You don't know your way around. The police don't know you. That creates problems. And it was a horrific experience, which is why the last two hurricanes I rode out in my car. I would not go to a shelter because they put me out and left me stranded in Largo. They put me out before the buses were running. And it was literally the rest of that, buses didn't start running until the next day.
Thank you. So we have a few people that want to speak. Per Robert's rules, I know this isn't the order that hands were raised, but per Robert's rule, I'm going to give the microphone to the folks who haven't spoken yet.
I was just thinking, like last minute emergencies, when like everything fails, you know, cell phones, communications, when the homeless outreach go around to places, or some of these emergency vehicles, maybe they could have a recorded message playing at certain times at certain areas. Just strategically known for homeless people that are like caught last minute and everything changes. Maybe they could have a recorded message that plays and go into these areas. I mean, it's just an idea. That's when all communications fail, you know, and it's last minute things change. It was just the idea I had, you know, maybe something like that could work, you know, and help. Thank you.
Dan, would you mind sharing with Gary? He hasn't spoken yet either. Thank you.
Just a quick question, Victoria, are there deficiencies in the program or anything that's weak points that you're trying to address with this?
I'm sorry, I heard like half of that. Did you say, is there a point that we're trying to address with this? Is that
Is
right?
there like a deficiency or people who didn't get in last time that you're trying to address with them?
Yes, there is a deficiency. So there is really, this is the only method of communication that we, other than just sending people out there and going up to groups and saying, hey, by the way, there's a storm coming and there's a shelter over here and PST, I'll take you there for free. This is really the only method of communication that we have going on in writing to ensure that is specifically geared towards folks experiencing unsheltered homelessness. So this is the only hurricane-related communication specifically geared towards our unsheltered community here in Pinellas County. And we want to make sure that that isn't a hole, because our last official count, we're working on the 2025 point in time count right now, that data, but our last official count of unsheltered homelessness in Pinellas County, and I know we have not surveyed 100% of people in Pinellas County, it was 721 people. On a single night, 721 people, and all of us know that there are more folks than that experiencing unsheltered homelessness in Pinellas. So there must be a way of communicating this information to everybody in our community. So we're trying to make sure that that's the gap we're filling. Great question. Great question. Sharon?
Yep.
I wanted to go back.
I think I turned that off.
Yeah, great. I wanted to go back to what Gary said about cell phones, that nobody has access to them anymore. And I wanted to ask you, I have the paperwork at home, which I've been meaning to dig out and bring here. There is a place on 66th Street. I took, is that the place that they're no longer doing that? Wow, that just blows my mind. I just really wondering what is becoming of these agencies that are trying to help, and then they just close down. So then what are we supposed to do?
Seems like a lot.
Yeah, it is very frustrating.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that just blows my mind. I can't believe it. Yeah, shouldn't believe it. Well,
Access didn't close down.
okay.
The government stopped giving phones to food stamp recipients.
That's what happened. I'm so sorry.
That's the long and short of it is usually the funding ends.
Let me address that. On these phones, it costs the government nothing for people take their phones they no longer use. I know this because I'm a member of CASA. They put all their phones in there and they have phones after phones after phones. Same process with these people too. They're not paying for the phones. These are phones that all good neighbors and people all through Pinellas County have donated. And all they do is turn it on to these people that, believe me, it is their fault that this is not happening, and it's not right. It should be changed. And you probably understand that better than anyone in this room. I'm looking at you. So that just really frustrates me now. And I can see, because I think everyone should have access to a telephone. And if they don't, then I agree, word of mouth or however we can reach people. Because believe me, my mother, we went to Zephyr Hills, she had no power and no generator. We come home, we still had no power for what, 10 days? 10 days. It was bad. She went to Georgia. I mean, it was pretty horrific.
Yeah.
So I get it.
So I'm smiling as you're talking, not because that's a good story, but because, did anybody else hear almost a perfectly formed advocacy campaign while Charmaine was talking there? Because that is. That's it. That's exactly what we're looking for.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
On that note, Charmaine, all right, ACP, which is the person supplying the phones, yes, you can take a used phone and get it turned on, provided it is a T-Mobile compatible, because all the Obama phone providers
I have
are T-Mobile, they work on T-Mobile towers. I personally have arranged for people to get a SIM card to make their T-Mobile phone work, rather than having to come up with a phone, because ACP shut down the ability of giving away new phones. But it must be a T-Mobile compatible.
We have a T-Mobile.
If all these people are donating phones, it might be incompatible with the system. That is what's crucial. It has to be a T-Mobile compatible phone to operate on the tower system. You know, if you had a T-Mobile phone, I could make a phone call and get someone to hook you up with a SIM card now.
I have a T-Mobile phone.
Okay.
Jennifer?
I just wanted to, like, say that Daniel's idea, I really agree with that. Like, I believe that that would be, I mean, to me, like, to get the message out, like, a couple of days before, to have, like, a pre-recorded message, and law enforcement use their bullhorn or intercom system, because they're familiar with the, most of the areas, you know, and to, you know, let them know, just, you know, make a short, I think that's a great idea to get the information out immediately.
And you know, it wouldn't even really be a new thing for them. I'm pretty sure that that's what they do when they evacuate like the whole beaches and stuff.
They do go around this area.
Oh, I get, yeah, because I remember when COVID hit, like, they had, like, in the parking lot, the Walmart and stuff, and I remember started hearing, like, stuff over the intercom, and so it was, yeah, okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that's a really cool suggestion, adding that in a little bit more.
Park they do.
All right.
All over.
So we've gone just a little bit, or actually, we still have a couple minutes left. I just can't tell time, y'all. I don't know. So we do have time for a couple more suggestions and comments if anybody has them. Yes, Miss Mary.
I live in a trailer, the cops went around, we got evacuated, I evacuated. After a day and a half, the toilets were plugged up, it was pretty gross. I asked them if they could get the porta potties. They said no, and they didn't know where they would put them. And I know porta potties can get really gross also. But I did have to evacuate, and it was a pretty disgusting situation. I even had a female veteran with me. And then some people that I know, they went to Gibbs High, their phones were stolen, a lot of their stuff was stolen. I'm suggesting that people maybe somebody can make some or buy them and hand them out to people, so at least you can try to put your belongings around your waist and cover it up with a t-shirt. So possibly your phone or your money won't get stolen.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and that's information we'll be happy to share with the county. Do we have some more thoughts on communication?
Hello, it's too loud. I just wanted to say a little bit more about the messages. And like I said, even after things are changed and things get worse, they could do the recording messages and then tell them to come out. If you're in there, come out so a vehicle can come pick you up. You know, and I just wanted to add that. And also, I was going to say something, and now I forgot.
Don't you love when that happens? It's
Something
okay.
other than that.
It's okay. Write it down when you think about it and tell me later.
You got a microphone on.
You know how to reach me when you think of it.
if we're trying to figure out how to get them all this information, I mean, I think we should also be letting them know that the buses, if you're going to a hurricane shelter, there is no charge. I had a lot of people last time, that was what was holding them back.
Yeah.
They thought they couldn't get on a bus. And I'm like, no, you can get on a bus right now and go straight to the shelter and it's free.
So do you
So a
think,
lot of people don't know that.
do you think that we should, because we have on here that the PSTA is for free, but that's all the way down there. Do you think that that should be somewhere up at the top, like really big, like you can get to shelter for free? Do you think that we should really put that on the face? Okay,
It might help.
that's a good, I'm down, let's do
If you'll
it.
get them on a bus and to the shelter,
Yeah, you
you
think,
know,
we can make that bigger, we can make that more in your face, because anything that's gonna encourage people to go, I think is
no, they're not
the right
free
thing.
coming back.
And the Uber deal.
After the shelter closes, they're not free coming back to where you left from.
They do some free rides after the storms, but I do think that they shut that down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's if it's running, when you get
Yes.
kicked out of the shelter.
That is true. That is true. PSTA has to be running for them to pick you up.
Yeah, so, but I mean, people need to be aware that
Yeah.
if you're at a hurricane shelter and that shelter shuts down, it's gonna be, if the buses aren't running, it's gonna be on you to figure out how to get back.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And I think that that's a really easily actionable change that we can make to this. So thank you very much. All right, one more comment and then we're gonna wrap it up. Oh yeah. And the Uber deal, absolutely. That's an important one to remember as well. We have to wait for Uber to announce it. So right under transportation, you can see Uber provides free transportation to and from storms, up to $35 per trip. But they have to announce it and they have to announce the discount code. So for instance, during Helene, PSTA was offering free rides to the hurricane shelters before Uber sent the email saying use Hurricane Helene as your code for free rides. It is really, really, really important to know that Uber does provide that service, but it's also really important to know that you have to wait until the code is available. 'Cause I don't want anybody getting into that car and getting charged $35 when they think it's gonna be for free. That would be awful.
I know, right?
So, thank you very much. We are gonna wrap this up for the hurricane conversation just because we are moving along with the agenda. But if you have additional comments, suggestions for ways that we can improve communication surrounding storms, and I want you to know, she's already written down cold night shelter next to this because we can use some of these communication tactics to ensure that our cold night shelter information is getting out there better as well. So if you have additional suggestions, please don't hesitate to let us know. You can email me, you can email Megan, you can email Sherry, you can talk to one of your officers up here. Just make sure that you share the advice, okay? Thank you very much. Sorry, that was the last comment, Nora. We're going along to the next agenda item. So next on the list, we have some feedback for interacting with law enforcement.
Has everybody had a chance to look over the brochure?
Yeah.
What do we think? You good? Everybody good with it?
Yes.
Anything, nothing we left out or you feel like we should have added to?
We're not changing it yet.
I wouldn't know because I wasn't here reporting.
Yeah. So they're kind of, there's a bunch up there now.
Yeah, I got a few now, but
You should go.
who is distributing these flyers? Been going pretty good?
Yes, like people, like Trina she has 82 printers. I mean, I'm just saying, she's new here, she has 2 printers.
We paid for printing. You shouldn't have to be printing any yourself.
I took a whole bunch last time.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Are you getting any feedback? Is there anybody said anything to you?
Actually, a couple people had said that they appreciated having this because it lets them know how to really handle themselves. So, because a lot of them did not know what their whole rights were or anything. So, yeah. So a couple.
That's good, that's good. How has anybody else been able to distribute any?
I went to the laundromat up on Gulf to Bay, so I'm a big, like, you know, anywhere I can find somewhere to like put information. So I put out the Hispanic, there's hope, I put this out, I put the, membership flyer, and I also put, like 4 of these up on the board and left books. So I have a few places that like I go and, so I don't have really any feedback or anything, but I'll go back and check to see if they've been taken.
Okay.
And I do have a suggestion, for, Victoria and them, if we could have that printed in Spanish as well.
Yes.
Very great idea.
Excellent.
Excellent idea. Excellent.
Yes,
Yes.
I don't know, we can do that, it'll just be a process.
Okay.
That's an excellent
Thank you.
idea.
Anyone else? Anyone else had a chance to hand one to somebody and get any feedback on it? Are we passing them out?
Dan, then Charmaine.
I was able to pass a few out, a handful of them to people since the last meeting. And the places I go and I see some of the people, I mean, I go one-on-one, I talk to them, make them feel comfortable. I give them the cards, you know, lived experience cards, COC, and I explain it to them and tell them. But I have handed, you know, quite a few of them out, you know. And I usually do things when people don't see. So I do it like, you know what I mean? When I see it's necessary. I mean, and they really need it. That's when I go out of my way for people. But yeah, I've handed quite a few of them out. Thank you.
The same thing. Kind of like incognito, when people aren't really watching you as you pass them out. Same thing with me, but you actually can go to Walmart's, Publix, believe you me, where we live, we have homeless people and they are there. And that is great to give these out to these people. And Katrina's highlighted Walmart's and Publix. And the Walmart's up on, is that Roosevelt? That is another one, a big, big deal, because they have so much security there. But you know, these people need to know their rights, because a lot of them do not know their rights, that's for sure. And they're getting in trouble and they don't even know their rights or what's going on. And I love PSTA because we do have a man in our park that is a big guy, he's PSTA buster. He always lets us know free rides, free rides, free rides. And I asked him if he had any problem on PSD. He goes, no, if I did, I'd put him off the bus. But yeah.
Thank you very much. Oscar?
Thank you. I have had some positive feedback from homeless church members of several different churches, of course, United Methodist up here. A lot of the homeless that are there on a Wednesday, I've showed it to, I've passed it out to a couple people. So far, they think it's very informative.
What about elevated?
Elevated, not yet. They originally asked to print their own out, and I was trying to do that to make it easier on the ladies. But apparently they're having problems with that. I have some in my book. I'm going to deliver to Elevated. So that way they can be passed out on Monday night dinners.
Yes.
And the like, First United Methodist has them to pass out on Wednesdays. Because they have food pantry, shower, laundry, and a hot meal. It's the ideal time for you to pass out. But so far, the homeless people that I've shown that to, some stuff they didn't realize it. And they thought it was a good thing because it was informing them of their rights. Now, people in the law enforcement field, they love it. So they all want to know how and when are we gonna distribute this? They're actually, Clearwater Police is actually excited about it. When is this gonna hit the streets? You know, how are you gonna get it distributed? You know, personally, I think some of these could be taken to laundromats For instance, homeless, everyone's got to do laundry. What do you do when you do laundry? You sit there and read the bulletin board. Take a few of them, slip them up on the bulletin board. You know, that's my suggestion, but anyway, I just wanted to add it in there that I've had positive feedback from the homeless community and churches and providers, but I haven't had yet, but they have read it over and they like it. They just have to print it out any so they can distribute any.
I was just.
Work in progress.
Gary, I was just gonna say, when it comes to Clearwater, perfect place to probably do that would be the St. Vincent de Paul Soup Kitchen on Park Street.
Actually, where our membership meeting is on Tuesday. I hope to see you there.
Yeah, my grandparents used to manage that place. My grandmother ran the kitchen and my grandfather did the book.
Okay, and we will be bringing a stack of these with us.
There is a really fantastic place. Katrina had to remind me, but I pretty much know everybody here there. It's called Abundant Life Church. It is on Belcher Road. They deal with massive amounts of homeless. Every Saturday morning from 8 to 10, they pass out food. You've got Latinos, you've got everybody. They get to know the people there. They are good. If you want a hot meal, they have different days you come and have a hot meal. I guarantee you'll probably get a shower out of that too, because I know Pastor Dave, Pastor Sherman, Pastor Gloria, there are so many people that are so loving and giving. This is one church that I know is on fire, that's really out there trying to help the community with everything. They set up stuff for children, they set up stuff for adults, all the time clothing, you name it.
Love that. So Abundant Life has showers?
I'm not sure, but I really have a strong feeling they do because the place is so big and it's huge. So I will find out. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, any of the not tech savvy people that aren't gonna be watching TV, radio.
Hold on, guys. Can we have one person talking at a time? I'm so sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, anybody who's not tech savvy or listening to radio or TV or have a phone, they're going to go to all these shelters we're talking about individually. So let's just say blanket, any place that offers regular services should have a stack of them right there.
I agree. Yep.
So I tell you what, I don't think that a motion is officially necessary for this, but as y'all know, I do think that when motions are made official, it gives us a little more to pass it along to the next committee, to the next council, to the board. So I'm gonna propose something, y'all can take it, make a motion, not totally up to you. But what do y'all think of officially requesting, for instance, that the Providers Council look at this and consider distribution through providers?
Yes, please.
I'll second that.
You gotta make the motion. I'd like to make a motion, yes, please.
Make a motion to,
What you said.
okay, so a motion to ask the Providers Council to elevate the law enforcement interactions pamphlet to providers throughout Pinellas County.
That's my motion.
Okay, all right. Megan, you got that? Do you wanna call in favor? Because I can't actually call for the motion.
All those in favor? Anyone against? Anyone abstaining? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Like the soup kitchen, it should be there.
It is really important. And like I said, I honestly don't think we need a motion to make that happen, but I always think it helps.
Yes. Good idea.
Coming to you, Miss Sherry.
Oh, no, I was just looking at time and making sure that Gary and Pat are able to close out the way they need to.
Yep. So that's one more comment and then we'll move along.
I was wondering if, I'm not sure like which council would do it, but if we could get an updated list from all the providers, churches, that actually offer services, showers, washing clothes, like an up-to-date list, that would be helpful. So that it doesn't get lost in all the other resources.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, something have this.
Yeah.
So we have something, so when I run into somebody I run into somebody and they're like, I don't, well, the last thing that it was I know where places are, but I don't know where a place is to take a shower, and then I called him, oh, here's this place to go. If we have a list to do that, I can pull out of my pocket, and he said, you go to this place, where do you live? Oh, here you go. Way helpful.
So on that note, are y'all familiar with the Little Yellow Resource Guidebooks? So we're in the process of updating those right now. And if you have resources that you are aware of that you think should be added to that, please let us know. I cannot add resources to that book if I don't know about them. So please make sure that you send us this information because it really is critical. Having that information in your pocket to hand people. Sure, there's a list online, but that doesn't help you if you don't have access to the internet like we were just talking about.
Right.
So absolutely, if you are aware of other resources, please make sure that you share them. And we do ask providers to share that with us as well because we want to make sure we have it.
Right. Somebody and them getting a place is something to eat or a shower or something, or not, because you don't have that information.
Entirely right. Thank you very much.
Okay. I have a question that is real important for the Thank you. I wanted to ask Ron or Gary, one of the two, because I have not been to Trinity to be able to ask anyone about the showers. They recently got a security guard there to stop any riffraff from continuing, because that's what they literally closed it down, made people eat outside because there was a man with a knife and over a woman, and they were making people eat outside, and now they're inside. So, and several really key people left. So there's a female lady that's there now. I know they still take donations for clothing. But I wanted to ask Gary or Ron, did you ask to see if they're doing showers at Trinity?
No.
Okay, well, I will find out through, I think the lady's name is Leanne or.
In the cafe.
Yes, the Trinity Cafe.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was the main place you could take showers, even females. And I actually like the fact they got a lady in there now,
Alright.
because more females will be comfortable with females in there. And, go ahead.
If I may, all right. There is a place that does showers, because we can't wait for Trinity, and that's up here at First United Methodist, and that's already in the works.
That's good.
That they already have a copy that they're gonna be printing them out,
Not just one.
and they're there for showers, laundry, hot meal,
Right.
and food pantry, all on Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock, and they already have a PDF of it.
Is that the place across from Park?
Yeah, and it's already in the process. All right,
But it would be nice.
Trinity, I can't
to open
explain.
up.
Okay, if everybody has no objection, we're getting close to the end of the night, and I'm going to adjourn this meeting.
Yep.
And but please go review the charter. If you have any suggestions, let's bring it up at the next meeting and we can talk about it. Okay?
Okay, so before we adjourn, I just want to, at the last COC Board of Directors meeting, the COC Board, the Executive Committee, wanted to recognize our lived experience officers. And so Gary and Mike, who are part of the Board of Directors, were there to receive a certificate. But Kat, Chair Beckman wanted us to give you this certificate for your leadership here in the Lived Experience Advisory Committee. So thank you very much for all that you do. You can have it.
That's why I get back, people who got to show up.
Thank you for the flyer as well.
Right. If we've covered everything that we're going to cover, I'm going to call this meeting adjourned. It is 1 o'clock. And meeting is adjourned.
Good job.